remembered the name from the book. Agatha Moore. Burned by her own village. And still vengeful, Claire yelled the name. Agatha Moore. I see you, I name you. The witch shrieked, stopped mid-air, and let out a cry that cracked the bark of the trees. Claire lit her bleeding arm on fire with Rachel's lighter and charged. The flames spread. Agatha screamed, trying to flee, but Claire grabbed her, pulled her into the fire. The explosion was instant. Black smoke shot into the air. The trees around them howled with wind. And then, silence. Rachel crawled to Claire's side. She was unconscious, but breathing. The witch was gone. For now, only 2 of them made it back to town that night. Police found no bodies, only blood trails, burnt branches, and strange symbols carved into the trees. Rachel never spoke of what happened. Claire was never the same again. Her arm bore scars that never healed. And every now and then, she'd wake up screaming, whispering in her sleep, "She's not gone. She's only waiting." To this day, no one dares enter Black Hollow after dark. Because sometimes, people say, you can still hear Sophie's scream, echoing through the trees. And sometimes, if you listen closely, you'll hear a woman whispering your name from the shadows. The Black Hollow Curse. In the summer of 1997, 4 teenage girls, Emily, Rachel, Hannah, and Samantha, made a decision that would shatter their lives forever. It started as a dare, a joke whispered between friends sitting on a porch under the pale light of dusk in the small town of Raven Hill, Pennsylvania. The legend of Black Hollow Forest had always been told in hushed tones, about a burned down cabin, a cursed witch who lured souls into her woods, and a warning etched in blood decades ago: 4 enter, 2 remain, 1 shall leave. They laughed it off. But teenagers have a dangerous tendency to chase the darkness. The plan was simple: sneak out after midnight, hike to the old ruins in the center of Black Hollow, and spend one night. No phones, no parents, no rules. They wanted to prove they weren't scared. But the forest had been waiting. The curse hadn't been fed in years. By the time they reached the edge of the woods, the air was already wrong, heavy and damp like the breath of something ancient. The trees leaned closer than they should have, casting shadows that flickered unnaturally. Rachel joked about summoning the witch with the old rhyme: she comes in silence, in ash and flame. Speak her name, and join her game. But no one said the name. Not yet. They reached the cabin near 2 a.m., a collapsed mess of scorched timber and crumbling stone. Vines had eaten through its bones. A ring of rotting dolls surrounded the site, their eyes stitched shut. They sat in the center and lit candles, laughing nervously. Samantha pulled out a handmade Ouija board. They didn't expect it to work. But the moment Rachel placed her fingers on the planchette, the fire turned blue. And the planchette moved. It spelled HELLO, then WHOSTAYS, and finally ONE. The girls froze. Emily snatched the board and threw it. "Game over," she said, voice shaking. But it was too late. The woods had woken up. Something shifted in the trees. They heard twigs snapping, slow, deliberate steps around the cabin ruins. The candles went out all at once. Samantha screamed. Something cold brushed her neck. That's when Rachel vanished. 1 second she was there. The next, a shriek, and dragging sounds into the dark. They followed her scream with flashlights, but only found blood smeared across a tree trunk and her broken phone nearby, its screen still flickering. They tried to Leave. The forest paths twisted and bent back on themselves. Time no longer made sense. It was like walking inside a nightmare with no end. Every few minutes, they would hear Rachel's voice calling, "Help me," but it echoed too perfectly, like a recording. Then Hannah started whispering to herself. She said she could feel her in the roots, that she's watching through the dirt. Her eyes turned glassy, and she laughed when Samantha begged her to snap out of it. Samantha was the next to die. They were crossing a dried creek when the ground split open beneath her. A hand, gray, rotted, long-fingered, grabbed her ankle and yanked her under. Emily tried to pull her up, but she slipped through like smoke. Her screams went silent in an instant. Now only Emily and Hannah were left. Hannah collapsed by a tree and began scratching something into the bark with her nails. She needs blood. She needs one to stay. Emily realized then, Hannah wasn't herself. The witch had gotten into her. Possession wasn't a myth, it was real. The forest had chosen her. Hannah looked up, smiling, and said, "You need to go. I'll finish it." She took a lighter from her backpack, doused herself in there, leftover campfire oil, and whispered, "4 enter. 2 remain. 1 shall leave." Then she struck the flame. The scream that came wasn't human. Emily ran. Somehow, the forest let her go. Maybe the curse was satisfied. Maybe Hannah's sacrifice had paid the debt. She was found wandering the highway at dawn, barefoot, clothes soaked in ash and blood, eyes blank. She never spoke again. Not to her parents, not to the police, not even to the psychologists who tried for years. She just kept drawing one thing over and over: a tree, a cabin, and a woman made of smoke with no face, her mouth wide open in a scream. Today, the ruins still sit in the middle of Black Hollow. Locals say they hear giggling from the trees, or see flickers of fire that vanish when approached. Some have gone looking. They never come back. And deep inside the hollow, carved into the last standing tree, are the words, "4 enter. 2 remain. 1 shall leave." The witch still waits. This is the true story of a night that people in a small town in North America still whisper about. 4 friends, Emily, Brooke, Kayla, and Madison, had just finished college and were on a short road trip. It was October, the air was cold, maple trees were burning red, and the dried cornfields along the highway rustled like brittle bones. They'd just picked up some pumpkin pie from a place called Blue Jay Diner, its neon sign flickering like it was trying to warn them. Their phones had weak signals, but their laughter was loud enough to cut through the silence. As night thickened, GPS led them down an old dirt road. Mile markers had faded, and a strange scent of damp wood clung to the air. Eventually, the road forked. On the left was a dense forest, on the right an abandoned field. "There's a light that way," Emily said, pointing right. "Might be a farmhouse." They stopped by a broken fence where a weather-worn wooden sign had words crudely carved with a knife, "Do not break the mark." A faint circle of salt surrounded the sign, like someone long ago had drawn it for protection. That's where they first saw her, a creature as tall as an old woman, made of shadow and folds of decayed fabric. She never fully entered the light, just shimmered around the edges. And her sound, like someone shaking a box of bones. Brooke laughed nervously. "Halloween prank. Let's go." But the wind paused. The car radio fizzed into white noise. Then a chilling whisper emerged, repeating all their names: Emily, Brooke, Kayla, Madison. Brooke stepped out first. She approached the fence and stepped over the salt line. That thing moved, not walked, slid across the air like smoke. There was no scream, just silence. Then half of Brooke's body vanished like a wet paper being sucked into ink. Only her shoe remained on the ground. Emily noticed that the salt circle was broken, exactly where Brooke had stepped. Kayla tried calling 911. The only thing on the line was the same whisper, "Do not break the mark." Madison turned the headlights to high beam. Instead of retreating, the creature thickened like fog, nearer, more solid. Emily shouted, "Get in the car." They scrambled inside. But Kayla was fumbling with pepper spray, stepping closer to a half-buried old well near the cornfield. The well's lid creaked open by itself. From within, fingernails scraped against stone. Kayla leaned close, and something like a black tongue shot out, wrapped around her ankle, and silently pulled her in. Her bag straps were the only thing left behind. A wave of scent, rotted water and cinnamon, lingered. Only Emily and Madison were left now. They jumped in the car. The engine wouldn't start. Dashboard needles jittered like they were terrified too. Madison clutched her cross pendant. Emily searched the trunk. There was a road safety kit, a rusty jack, and an old winter bag of rock salt. Her grandmother had once told her that salt and iron could hold back bad spirits. A childhood memory buried deep. Emily tore open the salt and poured a ring around the car. Madison, sobbing, whispered, "This is really happening, isn't it?" Emily nodded. There was no road anymore. Just them, the dark, and it. The creature didn't wait. It scraped a line in the ground and shattered the salt circle. Madison tried to reinforce the circle by opening the door slightly and throwing more salt. But as soon as she opened the door, the air hissed. The circle broke completely. They didn't see the creature, just fingerprints of mist on the window spelling Madison. Then the roof sank inward, like someone had stepped on it. The door flew open. Madison's scream was cut short. A sharp, bony hand reached in, no flesh, just nails and thorns, and touched her face. Her head folded inward like paper. Emily tried to grab her arms, but they slipped out of her hands like ice. She wasn't pulled down. She was pulled up into something invisible. Then the door slammed shut. Emily was alone. Only the faint hum of insects, a distant rusted chain, and a weak radio voice remained, repeating, "Stay on the line." Emily gripped the jack tightly and stepped out of the car. Every footstep fell carefully along the salt lines. She realized this place wasn't found, it was made. And if it followed rules, she could break them too. On the porch of the abandoned farmhouse were strange symbols, arrows, circles, twisted crosses. She lit her lighter and jabbed the jack into their floorboards. Beneath, she found old grass, hair, and tiny charms tied with bones, stained with salt. The creature circled her but wouldn't enter. Emily shouted, "I'll restore the mark. Do you hear me?" From the shadows came a reply, "Don't break it. Don't build it. What's eaten stays inside." She saw a rusted stop sign lying on the ground. Its iron pole was bent but usable. She fastened it to their jack, forming a crude spear. Using salt, she redrew the protection circle, laying the bone charms in a pentagram pattern. "If you eat through the mark, I'll bind you inside one." The creature fully appeared then, for the first time. A skeletal woman, her skin crawling with things beneath it, her face hollow where eyes should be, and a mouth like a carved-out gourd. But worst of all was her hunger. An endless, name-eating hunger. She lunged. Emily stabbed the iron spear into her chest, if that's what it was. No scream. Just the farmhouse windows imploding inward. Emily lit the charms and surrounding hay. The salt didn't burn like normal fire, it sang. The flames made noises like whispers running backward. The creature twisted and rose, pulling at the sky, turning into black fog. Each name, Brooke, Kayla, Madison, peeled from the air like smoke and vanished. "You ate them?" Emily whispered. "Now burn." She ran back to the car, grabbed a small gasoline can from the trunk, meant for the lawnmower, splashed it in a ring, and threw in a road flare. The flames whooshed up. The creature buckled, hissed, shrieked, then vanished in a burst of black ash and heat. Silence. Emily collapsed to the floor, shaking. Her watch read 3 a.m. The radio, for the first time, came through clearly. "Stay on the line." She called 911. This time, they answered. The dispatcher asked her name over and over. She kept repeating one sentence. "She ate them. She ate my friends." When the sheriff arrived, they found one shoe, one bag, and burned wood within a ring of salt. The report listed 3 people as missing and 1 in shock. Pictures were taken of the strange carvings on the porch, but no meaning was assigned. In the weeks that followed, Emily had nightmares, her friends calling her name just before silence. She began pouring salt lines outside her bedroom door every night. She never left town, but never returned to the road where the sign said, "Do not break the mark." Once, she asked the diner owner, Old Tom, about that place. He said, "That land ain't empty, sweetheart. There's a hunger out there that feeds on names." Emily just nodded. "She doesn't say mine anymore," she whispered. Outside, the neon sign flickered once, and then silence. If you ever drive near that place, and your radio turns to static, or names begin to write themselves on the window, just remember, do not break the mark. And if it's already too late, remember this: there was one girl, Emily, who killed the witch that ate her friends. All the rest is wind and memory. But when a voice, no matter how faint, tells you to stop, sometimes even the dark listens, and in that one moment, you just might survive. The shadows of Deadwood Lake. The sun had just dipped behind the tall pine trees of Montana when 4 best friends, Emily, Rachel, Sarah, and Jessica, pulled up to the abandoned cabin near Deadwood Lake. It was supposed to be a weekend of laughter, wine, and ghost stories. One last getaway before they all went off in different directions after college. But what they didn't know was that they had walked into a place cursed beyond human imagination. The cabin stood like a skeleton in the woods. Its windows were cracked, the walls rotting, and inside it smelled of damp wood and something foul. Emily, always the brave one, joked, "Perfect place for a murder, huh?" They all laughed. That would be the last time they laughed together. Later that night, as the wind howled through the trees, Sarah heard scratching. At first she thought it was a raccoon, but then she heard whispering, words that didn't belong in any language she knew. When she turned on her flashlight and pointed it at their window, she saw a pale face staring back at her. It was not human. Panicked, she screamed, waking the others. But when they checked, nothing was there. Just long claw marks on the glass and muddy footprints outside that led nowhere. Rachel wanted to leave. Jessica called her paranoid. Emily said they'd leave first thing in the morning. But morning never came for Sarah. At 3:12 a.m., the air turned ice cold. Sarah's scream pierced the night like a knife. The other 3 rushed to her room, but she was gone. Her bed was soaked in blood, and a trail of black sludge led to the closet. Inside, etched into the wall in deep claw marks, were the words, "She's mine." Jessica broke down. Rachel wanted to call the cops, but there was no signal. Emily, now pale and trembling, whispered, "We're not alone here." That night, Rachel locked herself in the bathroom, clutching a knife. She whispered prayers. She heard someone calling her name, Sarah's voice. "Rachel, help me. I'm cold." She opened the door. It wasn't Sarah. It was something wearing Sarah's skin. Jessica and Emily found Rachel's body the next morning, twisted in an impossible position. Her eyes were gone, her jaw unhinged, and her heart missing, written in blood above the mirror. Two down. They tried to flee. The car wouldn't start. The forest around the cabin seemed endless now, as if it shifted and moved, trapping them in a loop. They walked for hours but always returned to the same spot, Deadwood Lake. That night, Jessica cried uncontrollably. She kept muttering something about the woman in the lake, how she was watching, smiling, whispering her name. Emily begged her to stop, but Jessica stood up, her eyes glazed over, and walked straight into the freezing lake, arms wide open like she was embracing something. Emily chased after her, screaming, but by the time she reached the water's edge, Jessica was gone. All that was left was her floating phone. Its screen cracked, displaying a selfie Jessica had taken earlier, with something in the background. A rotting face. A woman with black holes for eyes and a grin that stretched too wide. Emily ran back to the cabin. Alone now, shivering, she found the journal under the floorboards. It belonged to a girl named Marjorie Wilkes who lived there in 1892. The entries told of a witch, Agatha Blackroot, burned by the townsfolk for kidnapping children. Her dying curse promised she would return every blood moon to claim the souls of those who dared enter her woods. Emily realized tonight was a blood moon. She prepared herself, found salt, a rusty axe, a Bible. She read the ritual Marjorie had written. The only way to kill the witch, trap her reflection in a mirror laced with blood, and bury her ashes with sacred soil. At 3 a.m., the witch came, crawling on the ceiling like a spider, eyes glowing, mouth dripping tar. Emily didn't scream. She lured her into the bathroom, shattered the mirror, and stabbed the creature with the axe, again and again, chanting the ritual through tears and blood. The witch shrieked like a dying wolf, the sound shaking the trees for miles. Emily lit the body on fire, mixing the ashes with the sacred soil she had dug from beneath the church ruins nearby. By dawn, the woods were silent. Emily was found a day later by hikers, collapsed and bloodied but alive. She never spoke again. Her hair turned white, her hands always trembling, and her nights forever haunted by scratching sounds on the walls. Deadwood Lake is now fenced off. Locals say they still hear screams on blood moon nights. Some say the witch is gone. Others believe she just went back to sleep, waiting for the next group of curious souls to wake her. The Devil in the Pines. It started on a cold October night in a small town called Ash Hollow, Oregon. The kind of town where people still leave their doors unlocked and trust their neighbors. But deep in the woods surrounding the town, something old and evil had been waiting. Something hungry. 4 best friends, Emily, Rachel, Chloe, and Madison, decided to go camping for the weekend. It was Emily's idea. She had heard about an abandoned cabin in the Black Pines Forest, near the base of Devil's Ridge. Locals whispered about witches and disappearances, but the girls laughed it off. They were young, fearless, and skeptical. None of them believed in ghosts. Yet, the cabin was a rotting mess, half collapsed, walls stained with black soot, and an eerie symbol carved into the wooden door. A triangle with 3 claw marks across it. Madison hesitated. "I don't like this," she said. But Chloe, always the boldest, kicked the door open and yelled, "Let the horror begin." That night, the girls lit a fire, drank a little, and joked about the witch of Black Pines. Emily read from an old leather book she found under the floorboards. The text was faded, in some strange language, but she thought it was Latin or something. She read the words out loud. That was the first mistake. The second was staying after midnight. At exactly 3:13 a.m., Chloe vanished. 1 second she was there, laughing by the fire, and the next, she was gone. No sound, no scream, nothing, just a whisper, like wind in the trees. The remaining 3 panicked. They searched everywhere, screamed her name, ran into the woods with flashlights, but the batteries died all at once. Their phones had no signal. Madison was shaking. "We need to leave. Now." But the car keys were missing. Rachel was next. Around 4:30 a.m., she went to the stream to get water. She didn't return. Emily found her flashlight near the rocks, still warm, but Rachel was gone. Only a single wet footprint remained. Not hers. Something bigger, too. By now, Madison and Emily were terrified. They locked themselves inside the cabin, barricading the door with old furniture. Outside, footsteps circled the cabin, but they weren't human, too heavy, too slow. And with each pass, a new scratch appeared on the walls, deep and wide, as if from claws. Then, the smell came. Rotting flesh, burnt hair. Madison covered her mouth and sobbed, rocking back and forth. Emily, gripped by fear, tried to pray, but her voice wouldn't come out. At dawn, Madison disappeared. Not taken, not dragged, just gone. Her clothes left on the floor, her fingernails embedded in the wood near the back window. Emily saw a figure outside, tall, bone white, with no face, just a mouth, wide, red, and smiling. It stared at her, then vanished. 3. Emily didn't scream. She didn't cry. She ran, out the door, through the woods. Hours passed, but she didn't stop. Something chased her, not visible, but always behind her. Breathing. She tripped near the edge of Devil's Ridge, almost falling. And that's when she saw her, the witch. Tall, skeletal, her face hidden under long, tangled black hair. Skin covered in black boils. Eyes glowing like coals. Her hands ended in jagged claws. She whispered Emily's name like a lullaby. But Emily wasn't like the others. She had remembered the book. Blood, fire, salt. She pulled out the lighter from her pocket, grabbed a shard of broken mirror from her bag, and cut her palm open. She drew the triangle with the 3 claw marks on the ground, then lit it. The flames roared into a blue inferno. The witch screamed, not like a human, but like a dying animal from another world. Trees bent, the earth cracked, and then, silence. When the rescue team found Emily 3 days later, she was wandering on the highway barefoot, covered in blood and ash, whispering the same words again and again. Gone. One survived. Never speak the words. Never read the book. Emily never spoke again. To this day, people say if you go near Devil's Ridge and see a triangle with claw marks, leave. Don't speak. Don't stay. Because she's still there, waiting for the 4th, waiting for the next voice to say the words. And she always counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Based on the 2003 Ash Hollow disappearances, classified as unexplained by local authorities. 3 bodies were never found. The 4th girl remains institutionalized in a high-security psychiatric hospital. The Night of Terror, a true American horror tale. Brooklyn, Madison, Chloe, and Jade arrived at an old cabin for a weekend getaway. None of them knew that this trip would become the most terrifying decision of their lives. The cabin was located in a place called Devil's Hollow, a region the locals always avoided. They had been warned. There's a witch in those woods. She hunts in the dark. She feeds on young girls' souls. She sees you, she hears you, and the moment you're afraid, she comes closer. The girls laughed it off, like most people do with old ghost stories. That first night, Brooklyn went out to use the bathroom, just for 5 minutes. But she never came back. No scream, no sound. When Madison and Chloe went looking for her, all they found was her half-burned jacket. Her phone screen was still lit up with a single word written on it: "She's here." Jade started having nightmares. She said she saw someone in her dreams. A woman whose face looked like a melted mask, eyes like black craters, her body dressed in filthy bones, crawling between the trees. Madison told her to calm down. But the next night, Jade disappeared too. And between the trees, they found only a severed foot, still fresh, still dripping blood. Her body was never found. Only Madison and Chloe were left now. Chloe was shaking with fear. She kept reciting prayers, her hands trembling. But at exactly 3 a.m., she let out a piercing scream. Her body lifted off the ground like something invisible had grabbed her. Madison could only watch, frozen in place. Chloe's neck twisted unnaturally, and she fell to the ground with a crack, the sound of bones breaking like dry branches. Now Madison was alone, her breath shallow, her mind breaking. But Madison wasn't like the others. The next morning, she walked deep into the forest, searching for the place she had read about in her grandfather's old demonology book. A cursed clearing between ancient trees, marked with symbols, bones, and dried blood. The grave of the Witch of Hollow. The book said that the only way to kill a witch like her was to burn her grave, say her real name 3 times, and throw ashes into her mouth. At dusk, when shadows stretched long and cold, Madison prepared herself. She poured gasoline on the grave, lit a match, and waited. Then she saw it. The witch came crawling from the darkness, her teeth made of human fingernails, her eyes like burned-out stars, her tongue licking the ground. She screeched so loud the trees trembled. Madison didn't flinch. She screamed the witch's name, Malura, 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 and threw ashes straight into her gaping mouth. The witch's body began to melt like wax. Her skin burned, her bones cracked, her screams echoed through the forest. Madison collapsed to the ground, unconscious. The next morning, locals found her barely breathing, her body burned and her eyes hollow. But she was alive. They said the witch was dead, gone forever. But to this day, Madison doesn't speak. She just stares at the wall. And when the nurses come near her at night, she smiles and whispers, "I didn't kill the witch. I just took her place."